Greetings and salutations, test takers. This is the Series 7 Guru coming to you from my off-grid studio, getting our kicks on historic Route 66. And the other screen, you will see our always very, very special VIP guest, the Test Geek himself, Brian Lee, Managing Member, Test Geek Exam Prep LLC. Tell us what series exam you're taking, where you're joining us from, and we'll take care of some housekeeping, and then we will get underway shortly. So let me go get my, what happened there? Okay. If you are looking for a free supplement to your paid study materials, there's nothing better than my YouTube channel. Hard to believe, Brian, we just crossed 6 million views. Can you imagine that? I mean, now I'm not sure if that's one person watching the same video 6 million times. We're also crossing 50,000 subscribers. The way to use the channel best, I get this all the time, is find your series playlist. If you're taking the SIE, there's 3 series playlists. Those playlists are numbered, playlist 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3. The videos in them are in suggested watch order. If you're looking for a particular topic, parody, for example, I got a guy saying, "Oh, do you have any practice questions on parody?" And I said, just put parody in the channel search bar, and 10, 15 questions will come up where people have asked either Brian and I on a Tuesday night or myself with an explication request. So if you're looking for particular things, a parody, accrued interest, a settlement, just put that topic in the channel search bar, and whatever we have available on that topic will magically appear. I can't imagine it would be something we don't have. If there's nothing comes up, well, let me know and we'll take care of it. Now, if you are looking for a paid supplement, there is nothing better, I think, than a Kaplan Q Bank as a paid supplement, if you don't already have it. For Series 7, with my 15% discount code at checkout, you get over 3,600 questions, and most importantly, a performance tracker. And until we get Brian to write a Q Bank, that's going to be the best out there. Now, that is just the Q Bank. The discount code works for all Kaplan products and services. And then if you combine that, this would be my other recommendation. I know some of you don't have the resource starting out, but if you do, no time to get frugal. Brian is kind enough to give our viewers a 20% discount on his content, Test Geek content, with all in on his videos, his class notes, and then most importantly, his practice exam, which I think has the strongest correlation out there, about $100 all in. So about $150 for that supplement. And there's nobody brighter than Brian at distillation. I have over 1,400 videos, and Brian, I don't think is ever going to have 1,400 videos. He only puts what you need to know, right? So you might want to consider that. Almost everything on my booking page is paid. My YouTube channel is completely free. There are a couple free items on the booking page, deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. What's free there is a Q&A session that we do with a whiteboard. You can go to the class tab. You'll find that. If you win our weekly drawing, that's for a coaching call, and you can register for that. They're free. That's recorded. We put it on the channel. You can see the last one, the winners. Sometimes more than one winner of our coaching call shows up. Hey, the more the merrier, not a problem. So that's free. Everything else over there is paid. We have communities. We have a Facebook community called Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks. Baby broker is a term of endearment for rookies in the securities industry. Hat trick is 3 successes in a limited time frame. And boy, the testing gods have been smiling on us in our communities because we've had so many hat tricks this last week or so. Lots of successful test takers. We also have Reddit communities. We have for your Series 6, our Series 66. For your SIE and Series 7, our Series 7. For your NASA exam, 63, 65, 66, R Series 66. For 4s, 9s, 10s, 24s, what the heck, 53s, R Series 24. We've also had some good results over there as well. If you miss us on a Tuesday, I'm here every Tuesday, and Brian's most Tuesdays. He has a exciting life in Las Vegas, and so unless I get preempted by Brian for a hockey game or basketball game or something else, he's mainly with us. But if you miss us, this is available as a podcast on both Spotify and YouTube. All right, let's see what we got going on in comments, Brian.
Let's do it.
How long should, let's put that up there. Let me get rid of our banner here. By the way, if you do have a question, put it in the function of telling us what exam you're taking, because this is helpful to Brian and I, because there's a lot of overlap on content, and how something is tested on the SIE could be much different than how it's tested on Series 7 or 24. And so it's not necessary, but it's helpful if you tell us like SIE or 7, followed by that question. All right, let's see what we got going on here. How long should I wait to take the Series 7? I feel like I'm breezing through the material. Been 5 days. Well, I wouldn't base it on time. I based it on practice test scores. I don't want to accuse you of hubris. That's the Greek, word for being overconfident. But I don't think you should make that judgment 5 days in. I think what I would want you to do is get through the book. I want you to read the book in as close to one setting as possible. So I don't know what breezing is in terms of your read rate, but let's say that's 5 days and you're closing on and finishing the book cover to cover with no notes. You're just trying to see what the whole thing looks like, right? Once you do that, then I'd circle back and start doing your units, quizzes, see where you're at. And if you continue to breeze, and then the key thing is once you get through the units, Brian and I have talked about this many times. Unit 1, do 30 question quiz, for example, get a 75. Move on to unit 2 quiz, then you do unit 1, unit 2. We always talk about that, Brian. I had a guy today who was tutoring on his 24, and he said he'd done unit 1, 2, and 3, and he'd done 8 quizzes. And I said, well, have you done a combined quiz? And he said, well, no. I said, well, we got to do that. So we did a combined quiz together of 1, 2, and 3, right? You want to keep bringing up that caboose so you don't get to the end, Will, and then you forgot what you did in the beginning, right? So the good news about breezing through it, I do think you're less likely to forget things the quicker you test. So sometimes people tell me, I'm going to take 6 months. I go, no. So I like that you're breezing, but I would give yourself a little more. 7-10 days out, I guess I would also say, do you have a test date? Because that would reverse engineer your study effort based on that as well. So maybe 7-10 days out, you do a practice test, or when you feel like you've completed your stuff, to do an intellectual inventory, see where you're at. Brian, you have any comments on 5 days?
We don't typically hear somebody say a comment like this.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I don't know if he's gotten through the options and the munis and all those sorts of things. But ultimately, the simulated exam at some point is going to be the most accurate barometer whether you're actually breezing through this or not.
Yeah. Well, we don't know where you're at, and we just know the 5 days. But I'm an NBA fan, Will, and I was watching the Celtics Cavalier game, and it was 25-3. And I was going to turn off that game. And I thought, well, it's early in the first quarter, but I'll be damned. They came back. And so a little early. I would say you're in the first inning or first quarter, whatever the analogy would be.
Right. Yeah.
Men, myths, and legends. Thank you, gentlemen, for all you do. Just got a notification you went live, but you've passed all your exams. Well, Spencer, you are always welcome as a victorious test taker. We ring the bell for victorious test takers in the house.
Yes.
It's always good for morale, Spencer. We always appreciate when alumni pop in and, are empathetic to the people who are trying to accomplish their test-taking registration hat trick. So thank you so much. You're always welcome to pop in, say hi. We appreciate it. Like I say, it's a good morale boost. The other thing, Spencer, is thank you so much for not getting rid of the notifications or unsubscribing. Most of the time, Spencer, people say, hey, Dean, I'm through my exams, and so I'm unsubscribing from the channel. And I say, Spencer, I get it. I come into your life for a reason and a season, both Brian and I. The reason we come into your lives is to help you pass your exams. The season is how long that takes. And we get it when the reason and the season is over. Right? Hi, Dean and Brian. Hope you're all well. I remember on my Series 65, I had 3 questions on social media, but don't remember exactly what was asked. I'll give it my shot, and I'll defer to Brian. I do not have videos on that. I guess I could try and make one, but mainly NASA believes in Yasha prudential regulation. And what I mean by that is they don't really pass a rule like FINRA. They basically say you should have policies and procedures for cybersecurity, for social media, and then that would be in our WSPs. And what we're written supervisory procedures, all reps have to read that and sign it as they read that. And in there, you would spell out what your social media policy and procedures are. For example, are you going to let your reps use LinkedIn but not Facebook, or Facebook and LinkedIn? Are you going to allow interactive content or static content? As it relates to cybersecurity, are you going to have a VPN? Are people going to be able to bring their own devices? Are you going to supply them with devices? So I would imagine to be something about WSPs, making sure that the policies and procedures for social media use are spelled out. And remember, over and over, they've said there's no separate need for rules of social media as it relates to public communication because it's public communication. Brian, your thoughts on that?
The only thing that pops into my head off the top is the active versus static.
Yeah. So active, Yasha, I don't know if it'll jot your memory, but active means you can interact. You're interacting with people, right? And then static means you just got like a LinkedIn profile and you're not actually, interacting with people. One concept you might get tests on this concept of entanglement. Entanglement is when you are responsible, Yasha, for helping some third party on content that is going on social media, that you would be held accountable in your firm for that content. That does show up every now and again. Brian, you got any thoughts on entanglement?
No, none.
Okay.
Don't hear it.
Hi, Dean and Brian. Hope all is well. Can you help me understand offers? Well, offers, I would say, are subject to the jurisdiction of the state administrator. And I think that what I think of as an offer is offer accepted becomes a sale or transaction. So the point is the jurisdiction applies to the offer. Where the offer originated, jurisdiction is what this is usually about. Where it was originated, where it was accepted, that kind of thing. So I don't think you're going to get tested on like the definition of an offer. I think you're going to get tested on the jurisdiction of which state administrator. The big one is where the offer was originated, where the offers was accepted. Your thoughts, Brian, on offers?
Yeah, this one's been around the 63, 66.
65, all of them, yeah.
Kaplan's got one of the best ones that I can recall. I'm sure the other ones have too. But, all the following are considered an offer or sale. They don't really distinguish between the two.
Yeah, because it's like the way I use it, Brian, is it's like attempting to rob the bank. And what you're tempted to say, hey, no harm, no foul. I wasn't successful. So the offer, I think, is you still are going to be held accountable for offers directed to an estate, whether they're accepted or not.
And some of those examples, like receiving a bonus in a contract, those sorts of things.
Any consideration.
That's right. Yeah. Is considered a solicitation. And that's essentially what I think of an offer is a solicitation.
That's exactly what I think of it. That's right.
But there's all of one potential question on the test.
Boy, isn't that true? On these NASAA exams averse, I mean, oh my goodness, test prep vendors get so in the weeds. Yeah. I mean, just, be careful you don't get in the weeds on a particular topic.
And it's not important to distinguish an offer from a
No, I'm with you, totally with you. Yeah. The biggest thing on NASA exams, particularly 65 and 66, is disclosures and unethical content. Yeah. Then you have this category called registrations.
Exactly.
How do we register a security? 2-3 questions. How do we register a broker-dealer? 2-3-4 questions. And boy, if you didn't know that, test prep vendors make it sound like you got to, spend hours on that. Agents of broker-dealers, couple questions. The vast majority of those registration questions are going to be on investment advisory firms. How do we register them? And if not, why not? And investment advisor representatives. And if we don't register them, why not? How do we register them? Who and where do we register IARs? And if not, why not? I think the way I usually say this is you want to make sure you're staying on the broad avenues and highways of NASA exams. You don't want to go down any kind of a mental cul-de-sac or an alley. And I almost think those test prep vendors, most of them, Brian, actually lure those test takers into treacherous waters.
And what that tends to do is to dilute the core content, the broad avenues, right? Yeah, exactly. And so you got to be careful with that. Yeah.
Be careful. Hey, Isaac, what's up, my friend? And brain, of course, he has a brain. I would tell you, one of the biggest brains I know. Look at that,
Oh, stop.
Hey, guys, taking the 66 for the second time in 2 weeks. When can an IA be compensated on capital gains or capital appreciation in a client's account. So performance-based fee. I'm going to put over Brian. He's on his whiteboard. All yours, Brian.
Anyone taking the 65 or 66 are going to get multiple questions on this. No doubt about it. And the way in which I usually present this concept is one word, followed closely by the second word.
Love it, Brian.
Right? So you have to know it is, in essence, prohibited for an investment advisor to charge a performance-based fee, except in 2 conditions, I believe. Now, see, that's how the textbooks are going to present it, right? But on a test, they're going to say, when can we receive capital gains? That is, in essence, the same thing, right? We typically get a fee based on a percentage of assets under management. We don't get a percentage of the gains, the capital gains. So this is one of the things about the 65 and 66 that everybody complains about is the ambiguous wording of the answer choices. You have to connect these two. That's the first thing you have to understand. The second thing, again, is it's prohibited. You can't do it except under 2 conditions, and you must know those 2 conditions. So being the teacher, I'm going to say, now, do you know the 2 conditions? Let me tell me what the 2 conditions are, right? One is for the hedge funds and the other one is for the sophisticated investor with over 1.2 million invested, that kind of thing.
Yeah, net worth. I could qualify clients.
Qualified, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was great, man.
That's it. It's on the test. So you got to remember that these 2 things mean the same thing when it comes to compensation.
Yeah, I bring this up all the time with test takers, Cody and Brian. What I sometimes will do, Cody, is cover up the answer set as I'm working with somebody, and I'll say, "What do you think the answer is?"
That's exactly
right. And when they tell me the answer, I say, "Okay, Cody, that is the correct answer. However, NASA probably might not say it the way you've got it in your mind." Exactly. And so now when I do the review, I say, "Okay, now what one of those answers is closest to what you are thinking?" Right. I had a young lady, and she gave me the most vulgar street version of a right answer I've ever heard, Brian. I said, that is the correct answer, but I can assure you that is not how you're going to see that on the exam. So make sure that and again, don't, particularly on the NASA exams, Cody, Brian just kind of walked you through, I think, a real nice overview of that. But don't be bringing performance-based compensation into a question unless it's there. Right. What if they meant? They don't. So don't be bringing stuff into questions. Mardi Gras. All right, Marcel. Woohoo. Yeah, I think we got you on the schedule. Marcel, I don't know. Should we let him participate in the weekly drawings? He's such a winner. I mean, I think he's won like 4 of them. I finally just told Marcel, why don't we put you on for tutoring? Because I think I owe you like 5 coaching calls from your weekly drawing. So yeah, Mardi Gras in Louisiana. I got to tell you, I always was teasing with my friends, Marcel, about Las Vegas, that we are a town where people like to come play. But boy, sometimes we make it so hard for people to come play, whether it's gambling or shows or drinking or, music, whatever the case may be, that if I were, somewhere in the country and we had a flight going to Vegas and we had another one going to New Orleans, I might go to New Orleans. I might say, particularly like all the fees, Marcel, we tack on now to our visitors in Las Vegas, locals, like I formerly and Brian currently, we don't want to pay for stuff. And so, we have a lot of fees when you go to a hotel, I call them tacky fees, like resort fees, parking fees, and you get a free room. It can still cost you $200 a night by the time you check out. Series 7 tomorrow. Well, Danny is the bomb. What are you doing on the live stream? You should be getting some sleep. The number one thing for tonight is to get some sleep because you need to be tomorrow on top of your form and reading skills. And when I'm tired, my reading skills are greatly diminished. So your number one thing is to try and get as much rest as you possibly can so your brain housing group is at full capacity tomorrow morning. You got to be confident in the execution of your study plan. Nothing more to be done tonight. You got to be confident in yourself. And most importantly, tomorrow, you've got to be confident in your answers. I don't think tonight reviewing is worth anything except just to keep your rhythm. I really don't. I like to have a scotch and smoke a cigar. I really think it's more about your psyche at this point. I know a guy likes to fish. He likes to go fishing, whatever. I'd be thinking more about my game face, my psyche, staying away from energy vampires that may be around, trying to suck your energy from you. So put up your guardrails. I hope you're testing in the morning. And that would be what I would say. I don't think reviewing tonight, the days of cramming the night before and passing something are over, right? You got to go with what you know now. Brian, your thoughts about the night before?
Good night.
Yeah. I mean,
you're done.
Danny DeBaum, I always tell people when I'm working with them that your study effort ceases the day before the test is when your study effort's over. It concludes. You might want to do something in the morning to just keep your rhythm, but it's over. Your last day, I have a guy testing Thursday. I said, your last day is Tuesday, which was today, right? This is it. Because tomorrow, if you work too hard, you can run out of fuel before you stick the landing, Danny. And, you need to make sure you're more prepared to stick the landing than you're trying to power up on stuff tonight. It won't make a difference materially to you passing, I guess is what I would say. Series 7, Omar. Okay, well, thanks. We got lots of content for Series 7s, Omar. Lots of it. Hi, Dean and Brian. Both of you helped me pass my 6. Woohoo! 63. What should I do with my nighttime now that I don't have to study? Well, I don't know. I don't get into that kind of thing. We just here to help you pass your test. What you do in your free time, that's up to you.
I'm sure we have lots of suggestions, but this is not the forum for that.
Yeah, there you go. May we come up with a membership? SIE, all right. We have a lot of SIE testing victories here lately. I think we did that one already. I think we put that in there. Hey, fellas, been studying for a week and a half for Series 7, got an 82 on the master. You're fine, man.
Wow.
Take the exam next Thursday. I wish you were going tomorrow, Keaton. I would love you to be testing tomorrow. So same thing I just said. With a score like that, you just need to be stick the landing. You're right where you need to be. Rinse and repeat. If you're going Thursday, whoever what we just said about your Wednesday, how you approach it moving forward. Well, I think we love, like the guy we said, who was it who told us it's a breeze and he's 5 days in. We very rarely hear that. It's great to hear. And this is another one that I feel, Brian, is great to hear. Somebody got an 82 on the mastery. You're right where you need to be. So the mastery, by the way, is a little tougher. So you should be in great shape. I don't like that you've got this much time. I now, I don't want to send negative vibes. I'm not sure why you took the mastery, 7 days out or 9 days out, because that should be one of your final kind of checks. Keaton, I would like you to have another intellectual inventory just to confirm you're 82. But if I were your corporate trainer, I might say, hey, if you're testing Thursday, let's do our last practice test Tuesday. Get another score, get some more data points, and then remediate so we can still get some stronger, get stronger. But man, right where you need to be. What do you think, Brian? 82 on a mastery? That's awesome.
After a week and a half? My God.
Yeah, a week and a half. I missed that part. Oh my, that is. Wow, Keaton. Maybe you have some background already. I don't know. That is even more impressive. What can I do to improve my 66 studying? I just finished the book. Well, fantastic. I love to hear that. We got a lot of stuff that is just so good to hear. Taking a practice exam a day. I like it. I think it's a little much perhaps, but it's better, getting 80s. That's fine. Is memorizing more allowable? I don't know what you mean by allowable. Brian and I think, yes, there's some things that are just memorization, December 31st, noon of the 30th day, for example. However, be careful that you, more importantly, understand concepts. So that when you get those wordy kind of paragraph questions, I just had one what we did today. And my God, I think it was a paragraph. It was Nancy and Anna and Eric, and they work in the office, and, they go to 7-Eleven for a Coke at break, and they come back. I mean, crazy. Yeah, I don't think you're going to get much practical application, 6 points on 66. Maybe 2, 3, 4 max calculator problems. I would make sure you can do total return. Make sure you can do current yield. You might get a balance sheet question or two, calculation, working capital, for example. But I do think people overestimate. I'm going to put practical application as math, right? There's recognition questions, practical application questions, and judgment questions. And we don't want to give up practical application questions because there's no interpretation of the right answer. You simply get it right or you get it wrong. I do think that people overestimate and then accidentally misstudy allocation-wise of resources on math, analytical methods, for example. They spend way too much time on net present value, internal rates of return, discounted cash flow, stuff that's there, but mainly is not practical application, but recognition of inputs, outputs, and when would you apply that? Brian, your thought on application?
The first thing I'm thinking of, because I know there's some textbooks out there that are very heavy on just definitional questions.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe, Dean, there's some practical application on the 66 that's not math, where you actually take a situation and apply the concepts to this particular.
Like statute of limitations, for example? Or?
That's what I think of it when it comes to application,
okay.
Right? And I think there are some. The 66 is heavy on definitions, no doubt about that. But there is those application questions as well that are not math. 66 has almost no math on it, right? Yeah. Other than what Dean just said, the inputs and those sorts of things. Not the actual application of the math. Yeah. But there are applications of situations that can get.
I think of this one, Brian, like 2 years or 3 years of discovery, whichever comes, first kind of stuff. Yeah. Took the 65 last week. Woo! Investment advisor, representative in the house, Gus. I don't know why you wouldn't want to believe Brian and I about testable content, but if Gus is kind enough, he's in the house and you can ask him. Every draw is a little different. So, he got it looks like a bad batch. It looks like he got a face of death draw, but he still got the pass, right? You got to overlearn because you got to take down either the dream draw. I'm hoping for all of you, a dream draw. Everything you studied shows up and you go, well, I don't know what the big deal is. But we got to be prepared for a face of death draw, and we still got to take it down, right? So I'm glad to hear that you got that done. That's the way I say that, Gus, is you want to overlearn so that you can take down any draw. The draws are random, by the way, so be careful when somebody tells you what they saw on their exam. Someone comes back, oh my God, the hardest thing I've ever done. Same day, somebody else comes in, oh my God, that was so easy. You go, okay, which exam is it, right? So be careful.
And, Dean, I think this is a great comment for people to learn from, because there's a lot of people who go in to take that Series 65, which, as you know, for some folks, it's the only exam they have to take is that 65. Yeah. So they're not really used to this testing environment. And a lot of people still go in there and believe that the questions they've been practicing on are going to look pretty much like the same.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There you go.
There's a pretty good gap between the practice questions on capital and SBC than the ones you receive. They are asking the same concepts. And I think, Gus, that's why you passed. You kind of worked through that and saw those concepts. But the wording of the questions are completely different.
Yeah, Gus, and kudos for staying in the fight, too.
Exactly.
I think sometimes, Gus, when people start off wobbly, and they're going, oh my God, then they sometimes fold up shop a little too early, right? I was joking, right? We don't want to take our players off the floor in the first quarter because there's still 3 more quarters to play. And so make sure, like Gus, when you're taking your exam, hey, take a strategic pause, take a deep breath if you feel like you're getting clobbered and say, okay, let me come back and get back into this thing, right? So kudos to you. Indeed. I always say inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exams are hard. Hi, Dean and Brian. My weakest spots on 7 are options and suitability mainly. The way FINRA wants you to answer versus what you might be taught at a firm. Any advice or resources to point to? Lee, if you're having troubles with options and suitability, I will link in the video description to 2 playlists I have. I have a Series 7 options playlist. The first 4 videos, there's over 100 videos in there, but the first 4 are really important. And you can watch those. And I also have a suitability playlist. I've got a couple of suitability exercises and a practice exam as well. Brian and I both believe that product knowledge comes from sales efforts, or not taking tests, but you got to have product knowledge to get the suitability questions right. I think I'm having an internet issue again. Oh, God, is that me or you, Brian, on the internet?
No, you're looking good. I'm not
cool.
seeing any problems.
All right, I'm on Starlink, so Should be okay. So, Lee, on your Series 7, 20 plus or minus on the options, and there's suitability on options as well. So
I don't quite understand what he means by what the firm teaches him. We have to know options and suitability based upon how the test is going to
that's
test.
Right.
And Dean and I are probably the two best options guys you could possibly
That's
want.
right. So Brian, he has, we use what's called the options matrix. I think, what do you call yours? The
aerobics diagram.
Aerobics. We talked about this last time. If you can get good, I guess I would say this, Lee, one more comment about options. What I aspire for my students to be able to do is not be fumbling around with contract specifications. In other words, they see a short put, they know it's an obligation to buy. And then tracking money, however they do it, plus, minus. I use a T. I think Brian uses a T. If you are pretty good at contract specifications and you can track money, you're going to get 100 on options. You're going to wish for 125 option questions, right? Somebody we talked earlier about this, Lee, practical application on option is not open to interpretation about what's the break even, what's the max gain, what's the max loss. Now, that does apply to suitability. So if my customer is interested in generating additional income, I should know that's a covered call. If my customer is expecting volatility, but direction's uncertain, suitability, long straddle, right? So that those two go together. Those two go together. Series 10, well, welcome. That is a real slog. Hey, we wish you luck for sure. If you got a pass perfect test for 74, I think that's really great. 5 Kaplans with an 80. I think you are set, my friend. Lone Star Galaxy, I expect tomorrow you will be a sales supervisor, branch office manager. I'm going to ring your victory bell early. Right. So I'm assuming you already have the 9. The 10 is the bigger deal. Way bigger deal. That thing is a real slog. I get mixed up with CAP-M and the efficient frontier with modern portfolio theory. Well, they're completely different things. They mix me up with efficient market hypothesis. Well, I mean, it looks like mind meld, Joshua. The first thing is to get all this into your brain housing group and then work on delineating it, right? So CAP-M is about expected return, right? The efficient frontier is about portfolios that maximize your return per unit of risk. That has nothing to do with the efficient market hypothesis. That's a third thing. The efficient market hypothesis says that it's a waste of time and resources to try and beat the market. So I think what you maybe want to do is maybe make a flashcard, or make sure you got these 3 things separate in your mind. I will link, Joshua, to a video I have on CAP-M and efficient frontier and efficient market hypothesis. Brian, your thoughts to Joshua on this question?
And I'm hoping this is Series 65 or Series.
It is. 65. That's his series right here. He's taking 65.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, and there's 2 or 3 questions on any of those 3, and they're absolutely different. There are some elements of modern portfolio theory in CAP-M, right? Because it's about.
Yeah, I think what I would think, Joshua, is CAP-M is one of the underpinnings, perhaps, of modern portfolio theory. The main part about modern portfolio theory that you get tested on is going to be this idea of negative correlation, adding additional diversification to a portfolio. And then the efficient market hypothesis is going to be weak, semi-strong, and strong form. And again, people, for whatever reason, how many times do we answer questions about efficient market hypothesis? I mean, it comes up all the time. It's on the test. It's certainly on the test.
Yeah.
Well, Patrick, it was my honor and privilege to serve our republic. So I don't know, maybe saw my Eagle, Globe, and Anchor back there, my hoorah, right? I got my Route 66, my Sun Devil, my SIPC sign. I paid a lot of money for that SIPC sign, Brian. I had my broker dealer, so when I retired, I took it with me. Hello, guys from Illinois. Ivy, welcome. 66 question. Which of the what is that? FOL?
Following. Which of the following?
Following describes a firm. Form ADV Part 1A. The answer is 2A. Oh, well, 1A is what the firm tells the regulator about itself. So, are you going to be an LLC, a C Corp? I think that the much more important part is know that part 2 serves as the disclosure brochure. So 1A does tell, like, here's my firm, here's how we're going to conduct business. What kind of business form of ownership do we have? I'm not sure. Did you translate that correctly to us? I would have felt good with a 2A as a miss here, Brian. What do you think?
Yeah. By the way, if you want to link my email address, I have a little short 2-pager chart that shows what's on each one of these parts.
You got it, but Brian, sometimes, he's been very generous with us, but remember, he has free stuff on YouTube as well. But every once in a while he offers. Now, if you're watching this as a replay, I always, Brian, want to say there could be a sunset provision.
That's
Because,
okay.
if you're watching this 5 years from now, Brian and I might be in the Caribbean with Stacy, his significant other, drinking, boat drinks, and Brian is probably not going to send you, this thing. But he also has a cheat sheet, he calls it, that's pretty helpful. And maybe you ask politely, he'll send that to you as well.
That's the registration of persons.
There you go. So I would certainly take him up on that. I use it a lot in tutoring, Brian, where we just use it to kind of guide ourselves through questions, like, what box are you in here? Where, I kind of think it as like, what playground are we in? Here's the playgrounds and where are we playing? Oh, look at that super chat. Wow. Well,
wow.
You go right to the top. Well, thank you so much, Caleb. That's awesome. Thank you. That's a super chat. Man, that is a super duper chat.
That's called karma. That's
karma. That's right. You're going to pass your, I'm getting a lot more of those super chats, but thank you so much. $20 is $20. So I really, really appreciate it. But that being said, Brian, I don't know if I told you this. I had a guy showed up. I charged $275 an hour for tutoring. And I showed up and the guy said, Dean, I don't need any tutoring. I just passed and I used all your free videos and I felt like I should compensate you some way. Wow. And so this hour is on me. I go, well, wow. Then I thought maybe the whole day will be that way. I'll be hitting the links and they'll just say, Dean, just keep it, man. Hello. Back to the application situation. That's one weakness is coming in the exam. How can I better prepare myself with those kind of questions? Well, I would say I have a 66 playlist. And in the 66 playlist, there's 3 of them. One of those playlists is watching me and test takers do a practice test together. I call it ride along, shared screen, and we explicate it. And you can watch that student, that test taker, try and work their way through these kind of situation questions. And then you can hear me kind of, say, okay, well, that is stinking thinking. That's not going to work. Or that's, you're on the right track. I call it bad misses. How long can we go before Dean tells you it's a bad miss? I did 2 24 shared screen tests today, Brian, and I was pretty pleased. I said, I only had to tell you a bad miss a couple times. So, misses are part of the process. So I consider a miss where you're in the right track to be productive, right? So I will say, that's not a bad miss. I mean, that was, like that Form 8EV Part 2A. If that was your answer and that's why you missed it, I wouldn't feel bad at all about that. So that's one way I would suggest you do it. Practice, drill and rehearse with either ride along with me or on your own. Brian, any thoughts about how to better attack those?
Yeah, it's actually a really, really good question. I don't know if there's a really, really, really good answer for it. But I always tell people that application questions begin with the knowledge of the definition. You have to know the definition of the concept, right? If you know what discounted cash flow is, right? It's an analysis tool to determine the fair market price of a bond based on future cash flow. That basic definition. If you know what a limit order is, right? It's a customer specifying a price in which to buy or sell. Start with that root definition and go from there. That's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah. The other thing I would add to that, Brian, indeed, is also be looking for pivot words or hints. So sometimes when I read the first sentence of a question with a test taker, I say, okay, where do we think this is heading? It says something about somebody died. I go, okay, so is it going to be about transfer or death or, tenants in common? So there's sometimes as you go through the question, you can pick up hints. They say a safety of principle. I go, oh, sounds like maybe a treasury bond. Moderate risk, not a treasury bond, right? So you can kind of do that. And what is challenging but helpful is not only read the full question and say, okay, well, somebody who wrote this question is testing me on something. What do I think they're testing me on? Now, sometimes you can also read that full answer set, and that'll give you a hint about what you're being tested on. And even if you can only get the answer set to a 50-50, that can be helpful too, right? Because in those two, you can read them and say, okay, well, what's the difference between those two, right? I had the guy today. He said, well, those are the exact same answers. I go, read again. They're not. They look the same, but they're not. Seattle. All right. Woohoo. So Michael, if you join us on Tuesdays, I got a secret for you. This is like going to In-N-Out Burger and knowing the secret menu. If you want to know where Brian is coming to us from, you can look at his whiteboard, and if it's aluminum like that, it's got bling, that means he's in Las Vegas. But if you look at it and it's wood, like the Northwest, then that means he's in his Northwest location. So, it didn't pass. What's that?
West Seattle for him.
There you go.
He knows.
Didn't pass. Well, there you go. I love the attitude. I will link, Michael, to a podcast episode I have called You Failed. Is it over? Spoiler alert. The answer is no, it's not. These NASA exams can really be a challenge. And so I love your attitude. I'm sure your firm loves your attitude. That is the right attitude. And I have 5 recommendations about how to proceed once you suffer that misfortune. So check that out. I'll link it in the video description. Not tonight, but maybe tomorrow. Brian?
Also, Michael, make sure you look at that score sheet. Find your 2 weakest.
That's right. That's my first recommendation is do a debrief with yourself. Gotcha. Take an intellectual inventory using NASA's test specifications or study guide. And what you're looking for is areas of improvement. Oh, you didn't tell us how close you came. Because, then we would say, did you change answers? Did you know what happened? I take tests slowly. That's fine. None of the regulators, Cody, are trying to sort people by how quick they think. If you have any time constraint on these exams, you're the one who created it, right? So you have time. Now, I'm not a big believer just because you have the time that you should take the time. In other words, when they ask, are you done? I'm going to say yes. I'm also, Cody, not a big believer in creating the subset of questions you want to look at again. If this were a written exam, I might think differently, but it won't queue up question 18 until you answer 17. Your flash response is your best response. So you should be able to, through practice, drilling, and rehearsing, know what that time frame is. I get so aggravated, Cody, when somebody tells me on their exam they had a time constraint, because that means they didn't do a practice test to know that was something they need to be dealt with. So kudos to you. You know that you need to speed up without sacrificing quality. I don't know if you're not accomplishing practice tests in the time allocated, because if so, you got to work on that first before you even think about a score. I had a guy and I said, listen, I don't care what your score is. You got to get this done in time. So the next practice test, let's just work on that. We don't care about the score. Can we get through the number of performance opportunities in the time allocated? If you have a time constraint, just remember Dean telling you, you created it. Usually people created test takers by turning aim and shoot, point and click questions into judgment questions that just aren't there.
That's right.
Right. And they're trying to, make it a more complicated question it is. Brian, your thoughts about speed time as it relates to this?
And you already alluded to it earlier tonight, Dean. One of the things I tell people, like you do, that you read the test question, formulate a quick answer in your head first before you start looking at answer choices. That might actually help you point you in the right direction.
And get rid of the ones that are going to cloud your mind.
That's right. Without having to read every question twice and every answer choice twice, right? Read the test question, get that flash answer in your head first before you even look at answer set.
There you go.
And then see which one matches. That might be a quicker way to get to it.
And Cody, we don't know your practice test scores, but here's another kind of Cody that sometimes comes up. And, I call it tough love, but sometimes, I'll hit the button for the tutoring session and they'll want to do like practice questions. And about 10 in, I got to stop and say, listen, you're not ready for tutoring yet. You don't even know what these questions are asking you. You don't know what the answers being offered to you are. So, you need to lay some more base. Let's reschedule this when you've had a time to lay that base, read the book, do those quizzes. And anyways, it was funny that this particular student test taker, I thought was pretty funny, Brian. Tough love certainly worked on him, because then we showed up for the, rescheduled link. He says, Dean, I think I'm halfway there. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I now know what I'm being asked. I still don't know what the answers are, that are being offered, but I know what the questions are. I go, well, that's, I think that it is 50%. Well, Lone Star Galaxy, I don't want to put the focus on the 10, but if you get that 10 done, you've really accomplished a slog. And I think you're going to find the 9 to be a little more straightforward than the 10, certainly. There you go. 9 and then the 10. So 9, I think there, Paul, a lot of people overestimate. They think they're going to have to be an option guru, and they're not. So it's mainly supervision. So I get people like, oh man, how do I get the break-evens on the butterfly spread? I'm like, okay, I'll show you. I've got a video on it, but do I think it's going to be material to passing your 9? I certainly don't. Don't we have that? That's kind of like the NASA problem, Brian, right? As the 9, a lot of people, I think, misallocate their resources, thinking what they think they're going to get tested on and what they actually get tested on.
That's right.
All right. Woo! Yeah, I have a whole, Caleb, I have a whole entire 24 playlist indeed. So I have a lot of content for you.
Passed the 24 last week. Yay.
Yeah. Oh, he passed already.
Yeah, he passed it.
Oh, all right. General Security's principal in the house. Babysitting 7s. I'm joking. Caleb, I used to, when I was a 24, I would sometimes go into my bullpen and go, wonder who's going to blow me up today. And are they going to blow me up because they're malicious or because they're ignorant? I mean, it could be either. It could be either. Thank you so much for the super chat. We got 2 super chats tonight. Do you have a mnemonic or easy way to remember the difference between technical analysis and fundamental analysis? Well, technical analysis is using past price action to try and figure out future price movement. And there you're going to be tested on support and resistance, head and shoulders patterns, short interest theory, odd lot trading theory. To say you're a fundamentalist does not mean you're a member of the religious right. To say you're a fundamentalist means you like to look at the balance sheet, the income statement, and try and find a margin of safety. So there you'll be looking at financial statements, PE ratio, valuation techniques. In the fundamental analysis category, you're either going to be doing bottom up or top down. So the 2 styles of fundamental analysis you get tested on is bottom up. That's where I start with the company. Then I look at the industry, and then I look at the economy. Top down is where I look at the economy. By the way, that means the business cycle. Then the industry, and then the stock. You should certainly know, in terms of doing that analysis, the business cycle, and know that 2 calendar quarters of declining GDP is a recession. Did you see that today, Brian? The Atlanta Fed is saying we're going to have a 2% decline in GDP this first quarter. Gee. That is scary. That is scary, right? 2 in a row. Our German friends are on their 3rd calendar quarter of declining GDP. From that, then you'd say, okay, well, I want to be in defensive stocks. Industries that are resilient to the business cycle. Food. The one they love on the test is utilities, pharmaceuticals. Those kind of things, right? Let me give it to Brian, and he'll elaborate a little further on that. I do think, Yari, you didn't tell us what exam you're taking. Pretty much most of all these exams have been big time on 65.
Exactly.
Brian, so can you just tell us what you got on your board there?
Yeah, just one of the things, it's not, I guess, technically a mnemonic, but fundamental equals financials. So anything dealing with the corporation's financials, right? Or, something with dollar signs, assets, earnings, right? Anything involving the balance sheet or the income statement, essentially. That's all fundamental. Warren Buffett is a fundamental analyst.
I call him the big fundamental.
That's right. He looks at companies' financials. Then a slightly more modern method is looking at stock charts. Right? That's price movement, past performance. That's what Dean was saying with resistance and support, those sorts of things. So it's trying to predict future price movements based on past performance. That's essentially the difference between the 2.
Yeah, that difference is testable indeed.
It certainly is. Absolutely on the 65. Yeah.
Right on. Series 7. Well, you're a Series 7. It's not a big deal. We're going now into my 5th year, Yari, on the channel. For the first 2 years, I had nothing on fundamental analysis or technical analysis. I do now. I have plenty, and I will link in the video description to a fundamental analysis class replay you can watch where me and some students go through the balance sheet, do the balance sheet calculations. I also have a technical analysis video, and I'll link both those in the video description. If not tonight, by tomorrow morning. Sometimes when we're done with this, I call it a day. Yeah, Brian.
For Series 7, Dean, it's not about the differences between the two.
That's right.
So we're going to ask you more specific about a balance sheet and or stock charting.
I think that's right. So Yari,
2 or 3 of those questions.
Yeah, if you tell me you missed the Series 7 because of either of these, I'm going to say, well, Yari, you had bigger problems.
That's right.
Now, I would say that we, as a technical practitioner, would be interested in knowing that I'm going to put a buy stop above the resistance level to establish a long stock position. Again, not material to your success. And I would know that lots of people have those buy stops above the resistance line. And so that means those buy stops can accelerate bullish trends. I would also know that as a technical practitioner, I'd put a sell stop below the support line. Because to be honest, I don't care if it goes up or down, just as long as it moves, it breaks out. And that would be to establish a short stock position. And as the market comes through that support line, those sell stops turn into live market orders and can accelerate that bearish trend. That's the kind of thing you're going to get asked on. But again, I have a 90-minute video on types of orders. I think it's way overkill. 66, 65, this becomes a bigger issue. No way. I live in West Seattle, Michael says.
Lincoln Park.
There you go, Lincoln Park. You're welcome. You're welcome. 66 again. Are the rules of USA indifferent for borrowing, splitting commissions, or profit sharing? I wouldn't say they're different for USA. I would say they're different based on whether you're a broker dealer or you're an investment advisor. So I think, Bhuvana, there, I think you've got the USA and SIE kind of like, no, that's not testable differences. The testable differences are under the Uniform Securities Act. The difference on these as it relates to an agent of a broker dealer versus an investment advisor rep of an investment advisory firm.
Exactly.
Right? So, for example, on the BD side, can agents borrow from clients? The answer is yes. On the BD side, can 2 agents at the same firm split commissions? The answer is yes. Can we share in profits? On the broker-dealer side with proportionate capital and principal approval, that would be okay. On the investment advisory side, borrowing from a client is an absolute prohibited activity. No exceptions unless it's a bona fide lending institution. So, Brian, would you agree, or do you think there's more testable distinctions?
Absolutely. You do not distinguish between USA and SEC on any of these things. I can tell you, they're all there, and it's all going to be based on USA rules. And, and depending on whether it's broker dealer, IA, IAR. That's
right. And I call that the cast of characters. So, Bhuvana, I love it when I get I go to a play and they give me a playbill and it tells me the cast. It might even have a synopsis of the acts and the scenes. And I get lost. I go, who's that guy again? Oh, yeah, Iago. I remember. He's the villain guy. I think of the series 65, 63, 66 that same way. It's really important you know what cast member you're being asked about. Are they asking about a broker dealer? Or are they asking about an investment advisor? Are they asking about an agent of a broker dealer or an investment advisor rep? Or are they asking about the administrator? These are all the cast members in this play, right? If it's an investment advisor, are they asking me about a federally covered advisor or a state covered advisor? So, I think it's the first thing here is not if it's a Uniform Securities Act versus SEC. It's, again, whether you're a broker dealer or an investment advisor, are the differences you get tested on.
And Dean and I say this all the time. Remember who writes these exams? It's the state administrators. It's not the SEC. So
I always say, Brian, I always say, Bhuvana, and Brian, I always say to people, would I like you, Bhuvana, to know all of the rules of both the USA and the SEC? The answer is yes. But if you're running out of brain space, the Uniform Securities Act is way more important than the Investment Advisor Act of 1940 or the Securities Act of 33 or the Securities Act of 34, because what you're being tested on primarily is the template of the Uniform Securities Act. Now, remember, template means your state may be different. But thank God the state administrators have said, if you pass this,
Right.
you're okay. You are welcome. Arbor Heights.
Gotcha.
You know where that is? I feel like I'm so not cool. I don't know where any of this is.
Nice neighborhood, by the way.
Thank you for my help in providing 65 on Friday. One area I struggle with is buy limits and sell stops. A question or two, right? So buy limits are different than stops. So I'll give a brief tackle here. So I do have a video on types of orders. There's only two types of orders. I think where people get hung up, and I'll give Brian a shot at this, where people get hung up is they think there's a zillion types of orders, and there's not. There's only two: market orders and limit orders. The only order that has no contingency, no qualifier is a market order. Limit order is where you're specifying your price. You want your price or better. Now, separate issue. I say, listen, we have suspended or contingent orders. You can place a stop. Primary use is to stop the bleeding, stop the loss. And I say, when it trades at or through when we pull the trigger, do you want that to become a market order, buy stop or sell stop? Or when we pull the trigger, do you want to turn it into a limit order? We may or may never pull the trigger. The order may never get elected. Sean, if you head back to the channel tomorrow, I do have a video going up on a sequence of trades, and then it's a buy stop and what happens to it. And you might want to check that out. But buy limits and buy stops are entirely different things. A buy limit and a buy stop limit, again, are different things. A buy stop limit has two contingencies, two qualifiers. I would know that when a customer adds a contingency or qualifier, it's less likely the order is going to be executed. So it's important. I say, okay, Sean, if you want to make it a buy stop limit and it doesn't turn into a market order, you're getting a second contingency or qualifier. And the more qualifiers you add, the less likely it is your order is going to be executed. Brian, your thoughts? I don't think it's a big deal. Brian's got his board out. There you go.
Absolutely. Dean, you probably get as many questions on this as I do, especially for the 65, sometimes for the SIE, because the textbooks make a big deal of it. So what I wanted to tell you, Sean, was make sure you watch Dean's video, or if you happen to have my video course in the 65, watch somebody visually draw it out and show you where these situations work. It helps a lot more than just reading this garbage in a textbook. If you watch, visually see somebody do it. Also, one other thing is, again, everything is grounded in the basic definitions. Dean was already saying, right? No contingency. It's executed immediately as soon as it hits the floor. Limits, specify a price. I tell people stops, specify a condition. If, then, that kind of thing. That's where you want to start.
If, then, that. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Sean, if I were your series, your investment advisor rep, I'd say, listen, part of successful investing, Sean, is letting your flowers bloom, but more important, pulling your weeds. At what point are you and I going to agree this is a bad idea? You say, Dean, NVIDIA today is at 109. What a deal. I said, okay, so you want me to buy 100 shares of NVIDIA at 109 for you? Sean, why don't we put in a sell stop at 107? That way we lose approximately $200. NVIDIA trades at or through 107. We send you home. Yeah. Right? Now, you say, well, then I want a limit. I go, well, the other thing, John, is that may not happen, right? So limit orders, nobody has to do business with you. Your price or better. I was telling Brian, Sean, that I'm off grid now, and it cracks me up because the community here is different than me in a fun way. But the guy doesn't understand a market order. He has an Echo Gen generator, and I said, I'll buy it. He goes, I haven't told you the price. I said, it doesn't matter. Whatever the price is, I'm going to pay it. He goes, well, that's not how it works. I got to give you a quote. I said, well, it doesn't matter. I can't get him to understand. I want immediate execution at the best available price. I don't care what the price is.
Dean, can we see you again, please?
Oh, sorry. I haven't made that mistake in a long time. Gee,
I know. You've been really good.
You didn't see how animated I was over here and all the waste. See you next week. Please do, Josh. We love Victoria's test takers back in the house.
Go get them, man.
Oh, there you go. Woohoo. Test taking hat trick registration hat trick. All right. Well, it's time for our drawing. There we go. Bhavana, that's fine. That's what we're here for every Tuesday, 5 p.m. It's a ritual for Guru Nation. We're always here. So, Brian, What say you in terms of our boom, boom, boom? Let me get this over here. If you want to participate in the drawing for our weekly coaching call, you have to put that into the chat exactly how Brian has it on his whiteboard. Otherwise, it won't pick you up in our Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune will be up shortly, and then we'll run our little Wheel of Fortune. Let me go grab the Wheel of Fortune. Whoop, that's not it.
That's as in spring forward next weekend.
I was going to ask you what it meant. I knew you had some reasoning for it. Okay, can you see the wheel?
There it is. You got it.
Yeah, let me get in here to get this out of here. If you win, you don't need to you don't need to send Brian anything. You just need to go to the booking page and go to the class tab, and you'll see free weekly coaching call for winners. So that's how you actually claim your winnings. All right, let's see how many participants we got. All right, here we go. Ready for drawing? Glass call.
Marcel's going to win it.
Well, Marcel, if you win, you're not getting anything other than what I already have you booked for. I'm teasing you, Marcel. But, we will go over if we need to. All right, here we go. Oh, there's Marcel. Oh, I keep seeing Marcel go by. All right, Jocks. I like that, Jocks. Jocky dang. Okay, so you just go to deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. You go to the class tab. You'll see the weekly coaching call for winners. That would be you. And you just go ahead and put yourself there. And then I'll see you then. Have your Dean to-do list, whichever you would like to cover in your coaching call for any exam. So that's how you do it. If you need to reach me, you can do that at dean@guruexamprep.com. You can send me an email if you'd like, but you can just go claim your winnings if you'd like. All right, let's get rid of this. All right. Well, remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. We'll see you next Tuesday. Brian, you say?
You got to learn to keep it simple. Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
Right on. Okay, everybody. We will see you next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Arizona time.